ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, made up of 10 countries, 700 million people, and a market size that is the 5th largest in the world. China has been making significant inroads here.
The East Coast Rail Link connects the east coast of Peninsular Malaysia to one of our major port Klang. From a security point of view, from a supply chain point of view, if there are any tensions in South China Sea, then this is a major option and major alternative that can be used.
Besides railway diplomacy across various ASEAN countries, there's also been a deluge of Chinese industrial parks, Chinese-built ports, nickel processing facilities, auto factories, and more.
At a time when multilateralism is under tremendous strain, China's global initiative offers a new lease on hope. They look outward, not inward. They speak not of rivalry, but of renewal.
While many auto companies across the world grapple with job cuts, Chinese investment promises to transform one of Malaysia's iconic car brands.
We will provide the new product development. Geely need to invest tens of billions of dollars to do all this new product development. We do not ask Proton to make all this kind of initial investment.
But with multi-billion-dollar Chinese projects nearing completion, do the benefits outweigh the costs?
The key takeaway for me is the need for greater transparency with regards to the awarding of these projects and the breakdown of the costing of these projects with regards to the financing structure of these projects.
China, first row. China, 67%.
As tensions with the U.S. continues, China focuses its efforts on the Global South, an area representing roughly 85% of the world's population. At the annual National People's Congress, China's foreign minister outlines the importance of the Global South.
全球南方卓然壮大，是我们这个时代最鲜明的标志。如今的全球南方经济总量全球占比超过了40%，对世界经济增长的贡献率达到了80%，已经成为维护世界和平、带动全球发展、完善全球治理的关键力量。
Many developing countries feel like, issues from inflation to food insecurity, energy insecurity, declining economic growth, pandemics. These are problems not of their making. They're problems that are being foisted upon them and that they don't have sufficient tools from other partners to deal with them. And so I think that they're frustrated and they feel like that China shares in their frustration of the existing distribution of power in the international system. And China is sort of a champion of trying to promote a more equitable order. And it's important, I think, for us, as uncomfortable as it is, to recognize that this is an argument that the Chinese often make that does have purchase in parts of the developing world.
中国是全球南方的天然成员，因为我们有着反殖反霸的共同历史，也有着共同发展振兴的共同的使命。
The largest global South economy on China's doorstep is Southeast Asia. The combined GDP of ASEAN member states was $3.8 trillion in 2023, making it the world's 5th largest economy. In Malaysia, a new Chinese mega project is quickly taking shape. This is the East Coast Rail Link, a 665-kilometer railway that runs from Malaysia's largest transport hub, Port Klang, crosses the East Coast through to its final stop, near the Thai border at Kuantan. There are 20 stations altogether. Once the rail is up and running in January 2027, it will whisk freight and people across the country at up to 160 kilometers per hour.
What is to me significant that is a major, I should say, intrusion, penetration into the rural heartland, the poorer segment of the community. So hopefully through that will propel economic growth because the issue of effective line of communication and transportation.
The East Coast Rail Link connects the east coast of Peninsular Malaysia to one of our major port Klang. The East Coast are relatively poorer in terms of economic development. We hope that we can bring more manufacturing base to East Coast because firstly, the West Coasts are more expensive right now in terms of land costs. So in terms of land availability in East Coast, there are still a lot of untapped and undeveloped land.
The East Coast Rail Link is a feat of engineering. Teams from China use mammoth tunneling machines to build tracks bored through solid bedrock in the mountains. Such mega constructions are pricey. It was originally priced at 65.5 billion ringgit under the Najib government. Later, former Prime Minister Mahathir negotiated it down to 44 billion ringgit after the 1MDB saga. And today, under the Anwar government, the project is expected to cost 50 billion ringgit. This makes it the most expensive Belt and Road Railway project in Southeast Asia so far. The China-Laos Railway costs $6 billion, and the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail costs $7.3 billion.
The price fluctuation is large. The final price is about $3 billion less than the original price. What lessons do you think other countries can draw from these events?
The key takeaway for me is the need for greater transparency with regards to the awarding of these projects, with regards to the costing, then the breakdown of the costing of these projects, with regards to the financing structure of these projects. And I think what the Chinese contractors and perhaps the Chinese government is worried about is that if, let's say, there can be this kind of renegotiation happening in Malaysia, this may set a precedent or it may influence countries in other parts of the developing world that are also involved in Belt and Road initiatives to say, hey, if the Malaysian government got a good deal in this particular project, why can't we also renegotiate to get a similar deal?
China mega rail projects in other parts of the world, like this railway in Kenya, has sometimes been subject to criticisms of not having enough local multipliers and using materials, labor, and technology all from China. The Malaysia government has tried to assuage these concerns.
Kita telah mencapai persetujuan agar sekurang-kurangnya 40% daripada keseluruhan kerja-kerja sivil projek ECRL akan melibatkan syarikat tempatan.
There are some people in Malaysia who are concerned about whether or not the project will impact Malaysia's fiscal health. What would you say to those people?
Firstly, we inherited this project. We do not have a choice. But we try to make the best of it. What we have renegotiated in 2019 with the Chinese government is that the Chinese will take a stake in terms of operations. So it's a 50-50 joint venture to operate the rail service, including the cargo services, throughout the loan period. So during this period, if there are any losses, the Chinese will take 50% liability of it. So they will be responsible in terms of losses if they are operational losses. But if there is a profit, they will only take 20%. So 80% of the profit will go to Malaysia in order for us to sustain in terms of the repayment of the project. So in that way, there is some safeguard for the Malaysian government in terms of making sure that this project will be more sustainable and hopefully it will be operationally profitable.
The original idea is to build up connectivity from the southern border of China, mostly in Yunnan and Guangxi province, southward. One line is through Myanmar, another line through Laos, another line through Vietnam, converging in Thailand and go further down throughout Malaysia to reach Singapore. Now, this is because China fully realized more than 12 or 13 years ago that the connectivity in this part of the world, from the Chinese border all the way down to Singapore, is not well built up. This is not a geopolitical project by any stretch of the imagination. It is for connectivity. It is for emancipating greater productivity and efficiency.
The East Coast Rail Link is still under construction, but there's already a new major industrial park waiting to connect to it. This is the Malaysia-China Kuantan Industrial Park. When CNA reported on the story in 2016, this is what Kuantan looked like. The port was still being constructed, and hundreds of businessmen from China were still mulling over investment opportunities.
The development of the project will be first divided into two phases.
Businessmen were presented drawing plans and taken to large fields where potential factories could be located. 7 years later, those empty fields have become this. According to the Malaysian government, the Kuantan Industrial Park has attracted investments worth over $31 billion, mostly from China, and created over 14,000 jobs. The industrial park is connected to the Kuantan Port, which was also built with help from yet another Chinese company named Beibu Gulf Port Group.
关丹港与北关港架起了马中两国密切交流合作的新桥梁，标志着马来西亚东海岸经济特区与中国北湾经济区、中国西部地区开启了海铁联运的新时代。
Kuantan Port is Malaysia's closest port to China, with ships taking just 3 days to reach Guangxi in China from Kuantan. With a rail connection between Port Klang and Kuantan Port, it's opened up the option for cargo to bypass the South China Sea.
The original objective of ECRL is to connect these two ports. So in actual fact, there is a land bridge between Straits of Malacca and South China Sea through ECRL. It's important in the sense that it creates infrastructure readily available.
Given everything that we've seen happening in the South China Sea and even the Philippines in recent months, this would be an important geopolitical strategy as well.
From a security point of view, from a supply chain point of view, if there are any tensions in South China Sea, then this is a major option and major alternative that can be used.
Inside an automobile factory in Proton City, high-tech robots from China are assembling thousands of cars. This is the factory of Proton, Malaysia's national car brand. And this state-of-the-art facility is the first step in the government's ambitious plan to transform this part of Perak into a national automotive hub and Malaysia into a regional electric vehicle manufacturer. China will have a key role to play in these plans.
We know that our neighboring countries are also attracting a lot of EV manufacturers to their respective country. And Malaysia has to, of course, step up in that score. And we hope that we can be a hub for EV manufacturing as well.
To understand how China has become closely involved in the Malaysian automotive industry, one needs to understand the history of Proton. Proton was established in 1983, and by the late 90s, it was the top-selling car in Malaysia. It was so popular that there was an up to 6-month wait to buy each car.
The reason for the speculative buying of Protons in Malaysia is because of the economic boom in Malaysia. Demand has exceeded supply.
Proton was a source of national pride, and its factory regarded as Asia's most modern car-making facility outside Japan. Proton did so well that they even acquired British luxury sports car manufacturer Lotus. But by the 2010s, Proton had fallen on hard times. Daniel Fernandez, who has tracked the auto industry for 25 years, explains.
People stopped buying them. Because why? Proton was not engineering good cars. They were not designing cars that lasted. The government had to keep bailing them out year after year. And basically, they were going nowhere. They were actually basically a thorn on the side.
In 2017, China's Geely Holdings acquired a 49.9% stake in Proton, along with 51% of Lotus.
通过双方的合作，能否实现宝腾和莲花扭亏为盈这样的目标，以及如何为宝腾及莲花这两个公司不断的提高可持续发展的能力，使宝腾能够在马来西亚以及整个东南亚市场，今后呢也争取在全球市场有更好的发展。
Thus began Proton's transformation.
We will provide the new product development, including our new models and including also hybrid and electric cars. Geely need to invest tens of billions of dollars to do all this new product development. We do not ask Proton to make all this kind of initial investment.
There was a time when Proton was facing difficulty. So how did the collaboration with Geely transform Proton and turn the company around?
The first is about the transformation of the business by introducing the first SUV named X70. So this is part of the technology transformation adopted by the Proton. And on top of that, we also learn operation efficiency, thus reducing our operational costs. With the Geely support also, we able to penetrate the latest technology of the engine.
The older generation who used to distrust Proton because of their after sales and their reliability and their used car values are slowly coming back to the brand. But the biggest change I feel is the new generation of buyers are now happy to go into a Proton showroom, happy to buy a car.
In December 2024, Proton launched its first homemade electric vehicle, the eMAS 7, which retails at under $30,000.
This would be a shining example of the networking opportunities and economic cooperation that has existed between Malaysia and China for over 50 years. And I commend both parties for their creativity and diligence to make this partnership a success. And it is in our interest to do what is necessary to make sure that this venture succeeds.
Mr. Anwar hopes this will be the first step toward creating a holistic ecosystem for a Malaysian EV sector.
I think Geely's role in turning around Proton would be a great business case study for Chinese companies and for others who are interested in seeing how a Chinese company can turn around a local entity in another country.
What do you think are some of the key business lessons that the Malaysian stakeholders learned from the Chinese partner Geely?
The first one is about the relentless of the competitiveness, whereby you see the Chinese OEM, because of the market is big and there are so many players, the competition is very, very stiff. So we have to be ahead of everything. From the marketing, we migrate to the new media marketing. From the technology, we have to introduce the latest technology. The second one, we talk about the speed and agency. Because of the competition also, everything needs to be fast. Everything is urgent. So this is something that we have to be very quick, and thus it improve our operation.
Geely's partnership is a huge success for Proton. There is no doubt about it, because now there is no bailout from the government. That means the taxpayer is not paying for Proton to stay alive.
The success of Proton and the upcoming East Coast rail line are just some of the reasons why Malaysians are feeling upbeat about working with China. According to the State of Southeast Asia 2025 survey done by the Isis Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore, 71% of Malaysians would now prefer to align with China over the US if ASEAN were forced to choose between the rival superpowers.
The position that the United States government, previous and current, have taken towards Gaza, that has, I think, created even more unhappiness towards the United States, and that, I think, explains some of the shift towards Beijing. The second reason, I think, because many people in Southeast Asia can see the growing economic importance of China in the region, whether it's in the area of tourism, whether it's in the area of increasing FDI in different sectors, whether it's even the presence of more, Chinese nationals coming to Malaysia to set up businesses here.
Also, Trump's tariffs are threatening the livelihoods of many Malaysians.
Foreign leaders have stolen our jobs. Foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories. They do it to us, and we do it to them.
While some exemptions partially shield semiconductors, which is Malaysia's largest export category to the United States, nevertheless, these new tariffs will still adversely impact many of our Malaysian industries, including textiles, furniture, rubber, and plastics.
Just as Malaysia sent a team to Washington to negotiate, China's President Xi Jinping made a visit to Kuala Lumpur.
面对当前国际秩序和经济全球化遭受冲击，两国将同地区国家团结一致，共同抵御地缘政治和阵营对抗暗流。
At a time when multilateralism is under tremendous strain, when some nations abandon the principles of shared responsibility and others question long-standing commitments, China's global initiative offers a new lease on hope. They look outward, not inward. They speak not of rivalry, but of renewal.
During this visit, 31 agreements were inked, covering areas like digital tech, green energy, satellites, and media cooperation.
You were formerly the Deputy Minister for Trade. How does China investment compare to investments coming from the West? Because Malaysia's leaders have always spoken about strategic non-alignment. So do the investment figures demonstrate that?
I think the investment figures over the past 5 years have shown that China is in the top 5, countries from an FDI perspective. But you have countries like the Netherlands, Singapore, the United States, that feature in the top 5. And Chinese investments, even though they are in the top 5, would not be more than 20% of the total FDI that is flowing into Malaysia. So that reflects, I think, a very balanced approach that Malaysia and the Malaysian government is taking with respect to attracting FDI from different parts of the world.
Well, I think our foreign policy will, of course, remain neutral. We know that it's a very challenging situation right now. It's a very delicate situation, and hopefully we can navigate this situation peacefully. We can continue to attract investment from both US and China and the rest of the world, not just these two major countries, but from Europe, from Middle East, from Japan, Korea. These are all our major investors and major trading partners. So this will be our continuously will be our focus.